Okay, everyone. Hello. I want to talk about shame for a moment, toxic shame. Oh, I want to read something to you from this book called Homecoming, and it's all about healing the inner child. And I'm using some of this work and as well as some of the other trauma books that I have lying around that we're going to be pulling from in order to go through this healing process that I'm going to be walking you guys through. At least those of you who've signed up for that 6-week series. If you haven't signed up for it, you want to. There's another 24, 48 hours left, something like that. So the registration is going to be closing soon. I think I've got one spot left, one or two. I'll have to look. I posted the update on the Facebook page today. And so if you want to do some of this healing work with us, just know that you're welcome to come. And in the meantime, I just want to talk about shame. The first two things we are going to be talking about are healing our relationship with ourselves. And we're going to talk about how do we move into self-love, even in situations that are really hard. How do we find love for ourselves when we're in the middle of a breakup, when we're in the middle of a shame spiral, when we're in the middle of a failure, a business failure, a relationship failure, when we've hurt someone we loved, when we feel like we're in the middle of a parenting failure, right? Some of these times it's so easy for us to fall into shame, or a lot of other emotions too. Resentment is another one that we're going to be talking about. And so anyway, we're going to start with healing our relationship with ourselves and figuring out what our current relationship with ourselves is and how we can start to move closer to self-love, even in difficult situations. But the second phase of this series is going to be about shame and resentment. And so it's going to be about healing and releasing some of our emotional baggage. And then the last 2 weeks is about healing our trauma wounds, which I've talked a little bit about, attachment styles and stuff like that if you've been following my page. So one of the things about shame, or any of these wounds, these deep wounds, is they impact our lives in profound ways. And the thing about specifically shame, but really all of these wounds, shame is just what we're talking about today, is they impact us in such profound ways that sometimes we don't even know we have it. I have seen so many people that have said, I'll be talking to them and they'll say, "Oh, I don't have any shame. No, sometimes I have negative emotion or I get angry or something, but not shame." And then when we dig deeper, what's really underneath all of that anger is shame. It's easier to feel angry than it is to feel ashamed. And so many people just, they react with rage and that covers it up. And I might talk and do a different video here in the next couple months about emotional smoke screens. But that's one of the things that I see. I watch when I see people that are just riddled with perfectionism. And, and I've dated people like this, and I've had friends and seen family members like this, and I've been like that, right? I've been that person where it's like, it has to be perfect. And it's like, when I went through my paramedic program, I was so harsh and judgmental and just mean and just, God, I was exhausted from the pushing, the pressure that I was putting on this program to do better, to be better, constantly pointing out their failures, constantly pointing out their shortcomings and where they weren't good enough and how they needed to do better and how I needed to do better. And I was a straight A student and I put so much pressure on myself. Even through undergraduate too, when I did my undergraduate degrees, the same, there's so much pressure. And perfectionism is one of those ones that can seem like, a good thing. But really what's underneath it is shame of not being good enough, right? Feel that feeling of I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And so here's all the ways that I have to prove it. And so sometimes people have a hypervigilance about being right? And you see defensiveness, anger, perfectionism, all these things that are really what they're covering up is shame. And that shame impacts the way that we show up in our relationships. It impacts our sexuality in profound ways, our sex lives with our partners, our marriages. It impacts the way we're ability to connect with people. It impacts the way we are or not able to receive criticism, right? If someone's trying to offer you constructive criticism, I've had people come to me and tell me, "Robin, gosh, sometimes you just talk so much or you interrupt people or like nobody could get a word in edgewise. You're just gab. You're so excited about what you're talking about. You're just bulldozing over everybody else in the room. Did you notice this person didn't even speak? Like, chill out, right?" And when that hits my shame wound, right, around not being good enough or nobody wanting me around, right, not being invited to the party as a kid, nobody, I can hear those voices in my head. You're awkward, you're uncomfortable, nobody likes you, right? And so just removing myself from social situations and all that social anxiety, where is it coming from, right? And so it's so important to be able to do this work of understanding where shame is tied to a lot of this stuff, because it literally changes who you are in relationship. It changes who you are at work, right? We've all worked with those people that are really defensive and you can't just give them feedback, right? Why? Where is that tenderness coming from? And I won't belabor this point and give you too many examples, but just to know that it shows up in your finances, it shows up in your diet, in your food choices, in your relationship with food, it shows up in your relationship with sex, with parenting, with your kids, with everything. And so I want to read you this from this book, and it's talking about toxic shame. And the feeling shame defined here as the feeling of being flawed and diminished, right? And never measuring up. Flawed, diminished, and never measuring up. Never good enough. Toxic shame feels so much worse than guilt. With guilt, you've done something wrong. You can repair that, right? You can do something about it. But with toxic shame, there's something wrong with you. And there's nothing that you can do about it. It is what's wrong with you. It's the core, the essence of who you are is bad, deficient, just not good enough. And you'll never be good enough, right? You are inadequate. You are defective. That's what shame, toxic shame. Toxic shame is the core of the wounded child that is within you. I recently worked a profound meditation originally written by Leo Booth, and I added to it some of the aspects of toxic shame that I explored in my book on healing the shame that binds you. And again, this is written by John Bradshaw, and so this is his share that I want to share with you now. And it's called, the name of this poem is My Name is Toxic Shame. I was there at your conception, in the epinephrine of your mother's shame. You felt me in the fluid of your mother's womb. I came upon you before you could speak, before you understood, before you had any way of knowing. I came upon you when you were learning to walk, when you were unprotected and exposed, when you were vulnerable and needy, before you had any boundaries. My name is toxic shame. I came upon you when you were magical. Before you knew I was there, I severed your soul. I pierced you to the core. I brought you feelings of being flawed and defective. I brought you feelings of distrust, of ugliness, of stupidity, of doubt, of worthlessness, inferiority, and unworthiness. I made you feel different. I told you there was something wrong with you. I stole your godlikeness. My name is toxic shame. I existed before conscious, before guilt, before morality. I am the master of emotion. I am the internal voice that whispers words of condemnation. I am the internal shudder that courses through you without any mental preparation. My name is toxic shame. I live in secrecy, in the deep, moist banks of darkness, depression, and despair. I always sneak up on you. I catch you off guard, and I come through the back door. Uninvited and unwanted. I'm the first to arrive. I was there at the beginning of time, with Father Adam, Mother Eve, Brother Cain. I was at the Tower of Babel and the slaughter of the innocents. My name is toxic shame. I come from shameless caretakers, abandonment, ridicule, abuse, neglect, perfectionistic systems. I am empowered by the shocking intensity of a parent's rage, the cruel remarks of siblings, the jeering humiliation of other children, the awkward reflection in the mirror, that touch that feels icky and frightening, the slap, the pinch, the jerk that ruptures trust. I am intensified by a racist, sexist culture. The the righteous condemnation of religious bigots, the fears and pressures of schooling, the hypocrisy of politicians, the multi-generational shame of a dysfunctional family system. My name is toxic shame. I can transform a woman, person, a Jewish person, a Black person, a gay person, an Asian person, a precious child, into a bitch, a kike, a nigger, a bull dyke, a faggot, a chink, a selfish little bastard. I bring pain that is chronic, a pain that will not go away. I am the hunter that stalks you night and day, everywhere, everywhere, every day. I have no boundaries. You try to hide from me, but you cannot, because I live inside you. I make you feel hopeless, like there's no way out. And my name is toxic shame. My pain is so unbearable that you must pass me on to others through control, through perfectionism, through contempt, through criticism, through blame, envy, judgment, through power, through rage. My pain is so intense. You must cover me up with addictions, with rigid rules and roles, with reenactment, with unconscious egotistical defenses. My pain is so intense that you must numb me out so that you no longer feel me. I convinced you that I am gone, that I do not exist. You experience absence and emptiness. My name is toxic shame. I am the core of codependency. I am spiritual bankruptcy, the logic of absurdity, the repetition, compulsion. I am crime, violence, incest, rape. I am the voracious hole that fuels all addictions. I am instability and lust. I am the avarice, the wandering Jew, Wagner, the Flying Dutchman, Dostoevsky's Underground Man, Kierkegaard's seducer, Goethe's Faust. I don't know how to pronounce all those. But I twist who you are into what you do and what you have. I twist who you are into what you do and what you have. I murder your soul, and you pass me on for generations, to lovers, to children, to coworkers, to neighbors, to family, to friends. My name is toxic shame. If you guys want to learn the beginnings of how to tame and quiet, begin to quiet that feeling, that sense, that voice of shame that lives inside each and every one of us, impacting our love lives, our ideas, our concepts of ourselves, of who we are, our relationship with money, with our children, with our world, with our lovers. Please just go ahead and shoot me a message. We're going to talk about deconstructing this whole relationship that we have with toxic shame so that we can just begin to find some reprieve. All right. I love you all. My inbox is open. Like I said, we've got a couple spots left, and registration for this event is going to be closing soon. Either way, whether you sign up or whether you don't, just know that I love you, that there are people all around you that love you, that care about you, that you are beautiful, that you are worthy, and that you belong right here where you are. So have a beautiful evening, my friends, and we'll talk later. Bye-bye.